So some more sobering news. This week we released our joint report, the Comptroller's 3-year assessment of where our budget is, showing that we've reduced our $522.2 million budget shortfall down to about $482.7 million. Still $482+ million. What was sobering and what I think deserves some consideration is next year's deficit is projected to be $712 million and the subsequent year $787 million. Those are staggering numbers. Now, I want to put this in perspective before people sort of rush off or zone out and call this calamitous or chaotic or whatever words people want to use, a crisis. 482 million is better than the 522, and it does not assume our labor concessions that were agreed to, the framework that was agreed to last week. It does not assume all my departmental cuts that have been targeted and have been processed through our various commissions that most people familiarized themselves with. It doesn't include a lot of the other solutions that are already being debated or have already been debated or are already being processed. So in some respects, that's good news. In other respects, it still shows the challenge that we have ahead of us in the next few weeks before I have to submit again a balanced budget by May 1st for all the enterprise departments, the redevelopment agency, Port, PUC, and those other departments. And then, of course, by June 1st for all the general fund departments. Let me underscore, though, this point, and I've said this so many times, I cannot impress upon people more. The dominant issue, the one that supersedes all other issues and will be the dominant issue for every mayor, every year moving forward, probably for the next decade plus, and that's the issue of pension costs. It's not just a challenge in the state of California, it's arguably a bigger challenge in municipalities like San Francisco. $120 million of this year's shortfall was because of increased pension and related costs. Next year, it goes up again exponentially. It goes up on top of the $120 million, another $130 million. And then the subsequent year, again, over $100 million over and over until we reach a point where we are simply squeezing out the general fund, the discretionary general fund, away from recreation and parks, away from arts programs, away from funding our health and human services, our community clinics, our shelters for the homeless and the like. This is a serious issue. And I am not here to promote a ballot initiative, but I am to promote this point that to the credit of some members of the Board of Supervisors, particularly Supervisor Sean Ellsburn, we are, as we did a number of years ago with Proposition B, once again going to have the opportunity to address this issue because we have seriously looked at this issue and have now taken some action. We've now handed that to the voters of our city. But nonetheless, that is just the next step in a multi-year effort to substantively address this pension issue. Incidentally, that $787 million figure I mentioned, $712 next year, that comes down dramatically because those numbers in the out years assume that the $482 million shortfall this year is only dealt with one-time solutions. So every dollar that's an ongoing solution will dramatically reduce the 712 figure and the $787 million figure. So again, not to alarm people, but to just have a sober analysis of where we are, at least a sober reflection of where we are. Pensions are going to be the dominant challenge for this city, and again, cities large and small across this state and across this country to begin to honestly address. But to the credit of labor, to the credit of members of the Board of Supervisors that supported putting in front of the voters a partial solution, I think hats off. I think we have honestly begun the process of addressing this issue, but more work clearly needs to be done. Speaking of more work that needs to be done, if you have not sent in your census form, I cannot impress upon you more the importance of sending in those census forms before someone knocks on your door. No one needs someone knocking on the door saying, have you filled out your census forms? That will happen in a few months if you don't send it back in. We have been promoting, again this week, promoting within the diverse communities of San Francisco the importance of filling out the census form. We say every 10 years You have 10 questions that take you 10 minutes. The reality is, when I filled out the form, it took honestly about 100 seconds, not even 10 minutes, a little over a minute to fill out. It's very simple, it's very easy. You're done and you're not gonna have to deal with it for another 10 years. Why does this matter? Well, a decade ago, we undercounted the population in San Francisco by roughly 100,000 people. That has cost us over $300 million of money that would have come from the federal government through about 158 plus federally funded programs. Had we made sure that everyone filled out those forms, we would have been the beneficiary of those dollars. Let us not make that mistake again, particularly in the era of these constrained budgets and with the reflection of the comment I just made at the top of this week's video, the challenges we have in the next few years. Fill out that census form. It is absolutely essential. Everyone deserves to be counted. Everyone must be counted, regardless of where you live, regardless of whether or not you're bunked up with friends or family, regardless if you're in a homeless shelter or you're out there on the streets and sidewalks, regardless if you're in a single room occupancy hotel in the Western Addition in Bayview Hunters Point or parts of the Excelsior or the Tenderloin. We need you to fill out those forms and send them in. Quickly, speaking of sending people in, I'm hoping to get people in. And I hope you'll send your ideas my way when I open up my door out in the Excelsior, speaking of the Excelsior, and out in West Portal. I did an open door day a few weeks back in the Mission in the Tenderloin. This will be the next open door day, again in the Excelsior and West Portal. I want to encourage you to call our office, 554-6683, 554-6683. 83 is the best number to call and reserve a slot, so to speak, so we can talk budget. I'd prefer people that want to meet with me on this next open door. It's April 8th. If you have time to do this, just call that number, 554-6683, April 8th. Let's set aside 10, 15 minutes, talk budget. If you have other pressing issues, of course, I want to avail myself. Otherwise, I'll see you on the streets and sidewalks as I'm walking around, and always you can call us at 554-6600, just generically to try to get on the calendar. But the open door days have been some fun, and a lot of folks participated in the last one. I hope you'll consider to do the same this year. Final reflection and comment. We just had a wonderful celebration of sorts here. Senator Feinstein, former Mayor Feinstein, came back to San Francisco City Hall. It was a lot of fun walking around the mayor's office. Her old desk, interestingly, I have Mayor Rolfe's desk. Willie Brown found it downstairs when they were remodeling City Hall, and that's the desk I still use to this day. Later became Governor Rolfe, and Mayor Rolfe was the one responsible for this new City Hall coming out of the earthquake and the ashes of the Great Quake in 1906, and he really helped organize the framework and the funding to build this new City Hall. Of course, Mayor Brown, candidly, Mayor Agnos and Jordan, who helped significantly even before Mayor Brown, helped with the retrofit. One of the nice things of walking back with a former mayor is reflecting on what the office used to look like versus what it looks like today. And it was interesting, the desk that I have behind me was FDR's desk from Hyde Park. It was donated to the city, and it was originally Mayor Feinstein's desk. And now I use it. I've got my iPhone on it. I don't imagine FDR ever imagined an iPhone on his desk, or even then Mayor Feinstein, now Senator Feinstein, as we all reflected and commented today. But it was nice to walk back with the former mayor and our great senator. And she was here, though, to celebrate our sister city with Cork. And I was very proud to go back to Cork in 2005 in Ireland and to celebrate the sister city, which was founded in 1984 by then Mayor Feinstein. She came back to meet with Lord Mayor Murphy, who was with us today. And the reason I bring it up is not for any other reason than it may be of some interest to someone, but also it's very personal to me, because it turned out in 1822, the Lord Mayor, and they call them Lord Mayors, don't worry, I'm not arguing for that here. The Lord Mayor of Cork was a gentleman by the name of Edward Newsom. Turns out a relative of mine. So there's a connection. I always wondered how this all happened to me and what it was that inspired me to politics beyond my father and my family. But that family history goes back apparently generations to Cork. in 1822. So as a great-great-grandson or great-great-great-grandson of Cork, it was nice to have the Lord Mayor here and his delegation, and of course former Mayor Feinstein, to celebrate and reflect upon her first trip out there and some interesting stories. I'll just leave it at that. We can't disclose the content of those stories, but some fun stories, as you can imagine, with a delegation of close to 300 that she brought back there in the early 80s. Sister cities are important to us. We've got dozens of them, and it just reminds us that we're all in this together and allows us to celebrate the fact that this city truly is an international city, and it has a deep tradition or strong roots and a real rich history in terms of reaching out across the divide and celebrating the things that bring us together and unite us together, and we did that today as well. So that's it for the week. I hope everybody's excited about next week's opening day for the San Francisco Giants next Friday, and I look forward to being back with you around time for the first pitch. Take care, everybody, and happy Easter.